Good morning. Hello, everyone at Clovis Unified. We are talking about HyperDocs and choice boards today. So I'm happy to have some friends joining me, and feel free to ask questions. Anae is our fabulous moderator today, and so she'll be available to pop into that chat if you have anything that you need. In the meantime, we are going to be moving at a pace that hopefully you can play along at home. So if you would like to open up Google and go to Google Drive, we'll talk about how to create a HyperDoc and how to create a choice board. But first, I want to show you a few examples of a HyperDoc so you have an understanding of what it is that we are working towards. So if you haven't had a chance to see a HyperDoc before, this is a Google document that has embedded images, embedded videos, embedded websites, and a place for students to respond to questions based on those ideas that they're exploring. So I'm going to show you an example of a 5th grade HyperDoc that I built with a teacher this year for French and English explorers. So you can see that there's a title and the essential question is at the top. There is a place for students to get familiar with the topic or review a prior topic in order to kind of get warmed up to understand the goals of learning. So we played a game in GimKit. We have them access their studies weekly within Clever. So they were going through their, they have a newspaper that they read for social studies in this part. And then there was a link to Studies Weekly to have access to the online articles for students that need the audio support or the visual support. Students then needed to do a 3-2-1 based on how they were playing the game and what they read in Studies Weekly. So 3 things I learned, 2 facts I found interesting, and 1 question I still have. So there is something for students to do on the left, and their responses need to be on the right. And so this is a very basic explore, explain, apply style HyperDoc. And I'm a huge fan of having explore, explain, apply. There are 3 items that students need to do. It's very clearly outlined what they're doing in that particular section, and they can move forward on either self-directed, and as we are in distance learning, this is fantastic. Or if you are in a class, this particular HyperDoc took us about 3 days to get through. So we did the explore for 40 minutes, we did the explain for 40 minutes, and we did the apply for 40 minutes. So we took our time to get through it. We guided the students as we walked through it. So this is some of just a couple of examples of HyperDocs. I'll show you a few more so you have an idea maybe where you want to go as you build one with me. This one, Elements of a Story for Personal Narrative, we used the right question, and this one was based on developing questions and understanding the essential question here just by reinforcing ask questions, ask questions. So you can see that students needed to take a look at the image, respond in Padlet, and respond in 2 different sections. So again, this was engage, explore, explain, and apply. So we added an additional element because we had more time. So there was an engage feature. I'm sorry, I hope I'm not making you all seasick by scrolling. So this is a 4th grade example of a HyperDoc. So let me show you a 2nd grade example of a HyperDoc. So yes, our littles can do this too, and they have a fabulous time going through and being very independent with their learning. So another explore, explain, and apply. This time students used National Geographic. We found YouTube videos, one that was very short that explained bears, one that was a little bit longer. For students that needed, again, audio and visual support, we asked Sherry to whitelist those YouTube videos. So just in case you plan on including any outside resources, make sure that those links have been whitelisted through Sherry Johnston. And we left open-ended responses for students. We gave them places to clearly write in their answers. So we provided a lot of those supports for our younger students. So I just wanted to show you an example there. Okay, what do you think? You ready to build one? It's really fun. I have a resource available for you, and let me pull that link, and let's let's see, it's called Getting Started with HyperDocs. And the URL is bit.ly/docs-boards331. So that bit.ly link will be available for you to get this handout. It is step-by-step guide in order to create a HyperDoc and a choice board. So again, that's bit.ly docs-boards331, and it is case sensitive, so it does need to be a capital D and a capital B. What I want to point out in this handout is all the way down on the 4th page. So let me scroll even farther. There are links to getting HyperDoc templates and choice board templates. So you're not on your own having to create from scratch. There are teachers that have put together examples for you, which I love. I love starting with pre-created templates and other resources. Other teachers have posted their work. So if you like the concept of a HyperDoc or a choice board and you're not ready to design one on your own, check out these additional resources. So grab that handout. I'm going to scroll back up. I'm sorry, that was page 6. Grab that handout again. So bit.ly/docs-boards331. Okay. So let's talk about how to design a HyperDoc. I'm going to come into my Google Drive and I need to create a brand new Google Doc. So upper left-hand corner, find your new button and go straight to Google Docs. And the concept is surprisingly easy. They look really, we love to call it glitter. We're adding a lot of glitter. It doesn't have to be overly complicated. So what I like to do is set up a very basic format using a table. And my teacher vetted resources go on the left and student responses need to go on the right. So how do we do that? So here in our empty Google Doc, we give it a title. I was just talking with a 2nd grade teacher and we wanted to do a topic on proper nouns. So I'm going to get started here with a topic. Typically, I would put in an essential question underneath the title. I'm going to skip that part really quick. And up at the top, I'm going to insert a table. So what you want with this table is very specific. And it is a 2 by, and then how many rows do you need? If we're doing the Explore, Explain, Apply style HyperDoc, I actually need 6 rows. The reason why I put in 6 rows is because I like having a title row separate from my teacher vetted resources section. So I went up to Insert, Table, and I'm doing a 2 by 6 table. So if you have not had a chance to insert a table in a Google document before, this little grid here, you just move your mouse and it highlights the number of cells you'll be inserting, and then it tells you the number of columns and rows at the bottom. So here we go. I'm going to insert a 2 by 6 table, and I know that I'm doing Explore. I'm going to skip down to that 3rd row, Explain, and then skip down to that 5th row and then click Apply. On the right-hand side, one of my favorite things to write in is your task. So students are clear that their responsibility to type or to respond to the questions are on the right-hand side. Now, we need to put in some teacher-vetted resources. Where do you want students to go to get familiar with the concept? So I'm going to hit the Enter key a couple of times just to give me some space. So you can see that I'm clicking in rows 2, 4, and 6, and I'm going to hit that Enter key. And I like to do things like numbered orders or bullet points. It's just a way that it makes it easier for students to understand that there's something they need to research, something they need to watch, something they need to read, something they need to hear. I'm also a huge fan of universal design for learning. So incorporating some UDL concepts. Not every student does well with reading an internet article. So that's why I like to find YouTube videos, brain pop videos, Encyclopedia Britannica, which we have inside of Clever. What are the resources that we have at our school site to help all students access the materials? So that's what I like to do under Explore is even if we've talked about proper nouns previously in the year, and we touched on it again when we were just identifying nouns, common nouns versus proper nouns, what can we do to activate student knowledge, prior knowledge, or how do we get them really interested in the topic? What would make them so excited about proper nouns? So under Explore, again, typically I like to find something visual, something to read, something to hear. Now, how do we get links to these outside resources? So for example, in Clever, we have access to Encyclopedia Britannica. So we're going to wait for Clever to load. Eventually it'll load, right? And as I scroll through, there is Britannica School. So students have this under district links. And when I click on Britannica School, this is also going to load. Oh no, it wants my school access ID. So as a teacher, kind of hard to click in here, but I'll show you how to provide links to, let's say, another online learning resource. So if I do a search for proper nouns, just a flat Google search, I'm going to add the word for kids on the backside of my search term. This is very helpful to filter out Google for some of the high-end, maybe college definitions, and it just makes it that much more accessible for our students to understand. So lots of fun little resources here. I'm going to scroll through really quick, and there are some great videos. If you plan on including any videos, please watch them from 0 seconds all the way to the end before requesting those to be whitelisted. Sometimes there are some unusual things that pop up or some content that might not be the best fit for your students. So I highly, highly recommend that you watch all of the YouTube video before going, oh, that looks really cute. This is perfect. So I'm going to scroll through here and let's see if I can find a basic definition. Let's go here to Merriam-Webster. Now, because this is for 2nd grade, I wouldn't typically point kids immediately to Merriam-Webster, but I want to show you how to include a link. So here is a link to a dictionary. We have access to kid-friendly dictionaries, and I'm going to take this web address, the URL all the way at the top. Isn't the cat adorable? Okay. And I'm going to click in that address bar, and I'm going to copy this link. So I right mouse click on that and I can say copy, or if you were a fan of keyboard shortcuts, that's going to be Control C or Command C if you're on a Mac. And I'm going to return back to my HyperDoc. So I could very easily paste this link. Right mouse click, paste, and here is this long URL. Now, for students, this might be a little bit too much to see a list of link after link after link. So I like hiding these long web addresses within words. So for example, we're going to go with definition of a proper noun. How do I hide the link in the words? So you're going to click, hold, and drag to select a word or a phrase. In this case, I'm doing a phrase. And up at the top, we're going to go to Insert, and you'll scroll down. It's about 3/4 of the way down, and you're looking for link. Keyboard shortcut fans, Control K, Command K. It's amazing. So we're going to click on this link button, and I'm still holding on to that URL that I previously copied. So I can right mouse click and paste, or I can Control V to paste it. And then I'm going to click that apply button. So this one I feel when you bury the link inside of words is a little bit easier for students to view than a bunch of links to resources in order to learn more about a particular topic. Okay, let me erase this really quick, and I want to show you how students will access it. So if this is your first time creating an embedded link inside of a table, inside of a Google document, I'm so happy you're here. So what students see is this underlying blue text, And when they click on it once, they have to click their mouse over it, and then they can select the hyperlink. So it is not an easy one click and it jumps them away. It actually tells them a little bit more about the link when they click on the words before they need to click on the link itself. So this is what it will look like for students. I'm going to do that process again really quick. So we are looking for a resource on proper nouns. Inside of Clever, in my area, we have access to Nearpod. So Nearpod would be one of those resources that I would use to find a lesson about proper nouns. And so I clicked on the student link. It's not going to take me where I need to go. Hold on really quick. And I'm going into the Nearpod library. Now Nearpod is free for every teacher. There just might be limited amount of lessons that you can pull from. So I'm going to do a search in the Nearpod lesson library for proper nouns. And I've already gone through, and this one I know is one that I would really love to share with students. So I'm going to quick grab a link, and returning back to my document, I will call this Nearpod lesson. I'm going to highlight the words by selecting it with a click, hold, and drag. I'll go up to the insert menu at the top, find link at the bottom, and then paste the link to that particular online resource and then click on apply. So that's the basics of creating a HyperDoc. You're going to start a brand new Google document, give it a title, add your essential question or description about what you hope students can learn. Then we inserted a table. So we went up to insert, table, and I did a 2x6 because I know I was going to do an explore, explain, apply. And I used 6 rows, so I have labels. And then I wrote out explore, explain, apply, the area for your task. And then you start dropping in your vetted resources about what is the goal for this particular section? What do you want students to write? What do you want students to create? What do you want students to learn? So let's talk about glitter. Up here at the top, I have just regular Arial font. There are really no colors to make it visually interesting. We don't have any images. So let's go ahead and add that information. One of the things that I like to do is put color on the background of the piece of paper, put color in the table, and leave the space where students need to write as white. So it's very visually obvious where students, and I tell them this, you need to fill out all of the white boxes. Or if you want to reverse that process, you need to fill out all of the yellow boxes or all of the blue boxes. So how do we add color to the background of our page? And this is only if you're not going to print it, otherwise buy printer ink. So let's look at how to apply color to the background of the page and how to apply color to individual rows and columns in a table. So how do we fix the page background? Up here at the top, we're going to go to File and scroll all the way down until we find Page Setup. And there is a secret fabulous button called Page Color hiding under File, Page Setup. And I like to pick some of the lightest colors that are possible to make it a little bit easier for things to be seen. Dark colors, you have to change your font to white, and that's fine if that's what interests you. So now I have this slightly pink background to my paper. I am going to change the row color for each one of my labels. How we do this, you click, hold, and drag to select the row for that table. And up at the top, you should find a paint bucket that looks like it's spilling paint. If you have your screen a little bit larger, bigger than 100%, you may have to find a drop-down arrow in order to see more menu items. So just in case that's missing for you, you might have to keep scrolling to the right to look for that drop-down arrow. But I'm going to click here on my paint bucket, and I'm going to stick with this pink theme here. So I'm going to make this really dark label row. But my font disappeared, right? So I got to select the row again and go up to this capital A and change my font to white. Okay, so one more time, let's do that again. I'm going to take a title row, highlight that title row, find the paint bucket at the top and pick a different color. So it makes it easy for students to understand that this is just a title. And then I talked about having white boxes for student responses. You do the same process. So I place my cursor inside of the box. Instead of highlighting the entire row, I just have my cursor in one cell, find my paint bucket, and ask it to be white background. So click once in a cell, paint bucket, and white background. So this is your setup for a HyperDoc. Try to think of any other glitter that I can share with you. Changing your font style. Okay, if you haven't had a chance to play inside of Google Docs, all of their fonts are free. And so when you find that font title, and for me right now it's Arial, there is a button that's called More Fonts. If you go in there right now, I'm going to lose you for about 10 minutes. So feel free to walk in and see more fonts, but don't get lost in all of the fancy. And so I am always on the hunt for student-friendly fonts, particularly that have the closed A and longer letters for G and P and Q for our younger readers, right? So I'm going to switch this over to a Didac Gothic. Now it is, let me go Control A. It is a smaller font, so I know that I'm going to have to increase the font size. So let me go here where it says 11, and I'm going to bump this up to 14. So now there is a way to make your font look a little bit different, a little bit more visually interesting. Sometimes I will also come in and change the font for the labels so it really stands out as something that students, oh, this is a different section. I will often do that. So let's talk about pictures now. How do you get images into a Google document? Well, there's a few ways to do this. I usually like including an image with the title just to get kids excited about that particular topic. One way that we can do this is down here at the bottom. There's a little explore button. We call it the North Star. This is, oh, I got to find a related food to this. Almost everything is food, and I just realized I'd call that the star. So when you click on Explore, it gives you the ability to find an image. So it says search your docs and the web. And I'm going to type in noun. And my first response is web. So I need to come here to images. And let's see if there's anything that I can use that represents a noun. We're finding person, place, or thing. One of my tips, if you decide to use Explore with students, I always tell them you can't scroll. Pick from what you see on the screen or change your search. Tell Google more information. So let me do proper noun. So we're going to experience this the way students have to experience an image search. All right, so far I'm not really enjoying what I see. So what could I use to really change my search? Let's find a proper noun. So proper noun would be the state of California. And I'm going to include an image of the state of California. So there's a little plus button here where I can say insert image. And wherever my mouse is, that's where that image is going to pop up. And wow, hello, state of California. I'm going to close out Explore. And clearly my image is taking over my entire page. It's a bit much, right? So I can click on that image, and there are resizer buttons. I'm going to take a corner square here, and I'm going to click, hold, and drag, and I'm going to really shrink that down so it does not take up my entire page. And then you have some options. There are items like inline. This means it treats it like a character, just like you're typing the word the. This picture imagines itself as an E in the. All right, so I'm going to pick wrap text because I want my title to come up next to the words. Okay, so this makes it feel like it's about the state of California. I'll spend some time finding a better picture for proper nouns, but just for that, that process, you can use the Explore button. Another way that you can get a picture into your HyperDoc into one of your sections, you can go up to Insert Image, and you can say Search the Web. Hey, guess what? It takes you directly to a Google image search. So let's say that we are explaining about proper nouns and we want to look for names of states. So here is a picture of the different states for the United States. I can click once on the image and click Insert down here at the bottom, or I can double click on the image, and wherever my mouse was is where that picture is going to drop in. So here we go. Here is an example of a picture. Notice that it fit to the size of the table automatically. So it's one of the features that I like about being able to insert an image into a table is, do you remember how big California was? Because it had the entire document to fit in. This recognized that I was in a cell in the table and really shrank it down. One of the other things that you can do, and this is a sneaky little trick, well, not sneaky, but a fun trick to know, is you can add links to an image. Do you remember when we went up to Insert Link and I mentioned that Control K was one of the keyboard shortcuts? If I hit Control K, so my picture is selected, it's got the little blue resizer handles around it. If I hit Control K, I can actually include a link to a resource based on this picture, which is a really neat thing to do. Often these images are too small for students to really focus on. So I like to include the URL just to that picture so they can see a much bigger version. So I'm going to come back to my search and show you how I do this. So United States map. I don't know that I'll find the exact same picture, but look at that. I might get lucky with it. So my Google search, I'm under here for images, and I have a map of the United States, and this looks like my map. I am going to right mouse click on that Google image search, and I'm going to copy the link address. So again, that was a right mouse click on top of the image from Google search, and you're going to copy the link address. When I return to my Google Doc, right here in the link, I'm going to paste it and click apply. So now when students come and click on the picture, they can see, well, unfortunately, this gave me the google.com search link, so I'll go back into Wikimedia and fix that link. But students can get access to that particular image. So that's a fun feature, especially for students that might have need visual supports, and this tiny little picture isn't going to be enough for them to understand the concept. So I love linking out pictures to get a bigger version. How is everybody doing so far? I feel like I've been talking a mile a minute. Okay. Let me close out of all of these. And under your task, I do like to give a little bit of instructions. So once you have your resources linked out, you have the learning in place, the creation aspect for students in place, how do you instruct students on what they should be doing? So under your task, I like to give a little bit of a hint. Write a definition in your words for a proper noun. And this gives them an opportunity to go, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do after I look at all of the resources on the left. So it's helpful if you give them a structure for your task. Okay, and I think we had some questions popping up. Anything that I can take a look at, or? Okay, thank you, everyone. So now that you're kind of familiar with the process, let's take a look at another HyperDoc and see what you can kind of like go, oh, I recognize this process. So this one involved using Google My Maps, which is available in Drive, And we wanted students to map out a route as if they were somebody that was trying to get to California during the gold rush. And so they had a chance to watch a video, they could read about it, or they could look at a map to get the concept. Your task has questions that they need to answer, right? So you sensing a little pattern here? Instead of explore, explain, apply, I call these challenges. So I need you to complete challenge number 1 today, and we're going to do challenges number 2 and 3 tomorrow. I gave them numbered items. They had to actually answer the questions, right? For challenge number 2, there were no links for them to follow. They needed to refer back to challenge number 1 to get to challenge number 2. Often I will include step-by-step instructions if it is a brand new element that they are using in a HyperDoc. So I give them little screenshots so they know that they're supposed to be using Adobe Spark. And here is a reminder of how to log into Adobe Spark if it's been a while, or if we have a brand new student and they're not sure that they're supposed to use the @my.cusd.com when they log into Adobe Spark. So that is HyperDocs in a nutshell. And you remember me referring to a resource where you can go and get pre-made HyperDocs. I can't recommend this any higher. So this is HyperDocs Co. It's a lovely set of ladies that walked through this process and created a website and encouraged other teachers to submit their HyperDocs. So this is amazing. You can learn everything that you like using HyperDocs Co. But here under, let's go to resources first. They have templates. So if you just want to really quick grab a basic template that has all of the images, has color included, here's where you could come to grab that. So here's this Engage, Explore, Explain, Apply. I wonder where I got the concept from. But this is a great little template. It has fun colors. Here's an example of this template that had been modified for animal reports. The 5 E's, so amazing for science, right? That and there's just on and on about the different templates that all you have to do is fill out the individual elements, and the color and the style is already there. The other great thing that I want to show you is Teachers Give Teachers. So you can come in here and see if another teacher has already created something, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So I'm going to take one, and let's do a search for photosynthesis. We're going to test my spelling skills too while I do this. So I'm going to click on search. And here we go. There are teachers just very recently, November of 2019, talked about photosynthesis and respiration, right? Photosynthesis review, 6th grade ecology. Just teachers are fabulous people. And I'm going to click on this first one and let's see what her design looks like. How do we grab somebody else's template? So I'm going to click on the link. It says the address of your HyperDoc. And Kathy used the 5E lesson plan. Do you recognize the template? So she borrowed the existing template, but filled it in for respiration and photosynthesis. So she has little embedded links. You might want to update those if you borrow someone else's template. Don't use their links because then it will go to her, right, or to him. But just a wonderful example of using Padlet and using Flipgrid. How do you get a copy of this? You're going to go up to File and then Make a Copy so you can get your own version of it. Lots of templates available. Teachers contribute some really great resources in HyperDocs.co. So that, again, is in that handout, or if you just want to jot HyperDocs.co right now, that's available for you. Okay. Oh, there was one other HyperDoc that for math. So I wanted to make sure that we had a math example for you here. This was sent to me by Leanne, and it's all about angles. So this is for a HyperDoc for our older students. Anywhere there's a red dot is the expectation for this teacher to students need to be typing. So I use a white box as a personal style. This particular teacher uses the red dots or red writing. So this is where students need to fill things out. So estimating the degree, there's a little red writing here, so students need to type that in. So lots of fun pictures for that instant grab them and engagement. You can see 360 and 180. So we're going to keep scrolling, right? Lots of things about vertices and angles. So this isn't just for reading or for English or for history or for social science. HyperDocs work for any subject and any sort of engagement. So that's a neat little one. Another example, it does not have to be a Google Doc. What? So you can use Hyper Slides is one of the fun terms that we use. But if you find that your students might be overwhelmed looking at a table, you can give them one task per slide. And so that works out really well for a lot of our students. So in this example, we're learning about how to research online. You'll watch a brain pop video, and then you're going to write 3 tips. So students can watch that video over and over and over again to be successful until they find 3 tips. And then they come in and they very clearly need to identify a search topic and do a Google search. How many websites? Usually it's in the millions or billions. And then we talk about filtering. We talk about safe search. So this is a HyperDoc inside of a Google slide deck. So there's basically one challenge per slide that students need to fill out. The next question that I'm hearing, Karnak, right? is, wait, but how do you share all these with your students? I use Google Classroom. I set up an assignment, make a copy for every student, and it's ready to go. So Classroom has been so amazing when it comes to organization and distribution of assignments. No more paper. It's so amazing. Before we move on to choice boards, is there anything that you would love to share? I love stealing other people's ideas about HyperDocs, how to make them useful for students, more efficient, more effective, or questions.
There are currently no questions in the chat, but everybody loved the resources you shared.
Well, thank you. I hope so. All right, so email me and I'll steal your ideas. So I want to show you an example of a choice board and how a choice board is a little bit different than a HyperDoc. So this choice board I actually built out yesterday with a teacher. We are going to be studying fractions, particularly mixed numbers. So, you know, I have to get punny with my titles, getting mixed up in fractions. So a choice board is very much like a HyperDoc, except students get to pick their path. HyperDoc is very specific, step 1, step 2, step 3. In a choice board, you give them multiple activities, and only some of them are mandatory. So in this choice board, we came up with 8 activities. 2 are mandatory. The other 3 they can pick. Often the middle square will be the one mandatory item, and then there are 8 things around it that you can do to demonstrate your knowledge, your mastery. But in this case, we did 8 activities because we didn't want to overwhelm students. So this is a week-long assignment for fractions. They have 5 days at their own pace to complete any one of these items. The blue boxes are the 2 mandatory items. The yellow boxes are how they can choose to learn. So there are 3 boxes for review and 3 boxes for learning the upcoming content. And so it's just a lot of fun brainstorming with teachers to build out the choice board. Are you noticing anything familiar? Very much like a HyperDoc. It's just a table. And all I'm doing is inserting images, pulling in links to other resources, and typing out expectations for student responses. For example, here in Nearpod, they don't need to type anything because for us, we can tell that they took the lesson, right? So we know that they went through Nearpod to complete that particular activity. For the Math Learning Center, they're coming in and they're creating a problem, a math equation, and they have to take a screenshot of it and insert that screenshot into the table. So students will have to understand the process for a screenshot. Fortunately, we've done that with this class before, so it's not a new concept for them. So a lot of these, because we are distance learning with the choice board, requires screenshots. Take a picture of your score. So you've watched these 3 brain pop videos, you're playing a game. Show me how you did in the game, right? This one, find a fraction, take a picture around you. So we're encouraging students to look at life around them and recognize that, oh, maybe we ordered pizza for dinner and there are 4 slices left out of a 6-slice piece of pizza. This is a fraction, right? So they can use their cell phone, take a picture, incorporate it in that doc, or they can draw a picture and hold it up to the camera on their device and take a picture that way. So just lots of different ways to ask students to create something or learn something. So I want to show you how to quickly build out a choice board using the exact same process that we learned before. So I'm going to come back here into Google Drive, and I am going to create another document. So that's that plus new button and Google Docs. And the process is going to be very familiar. You give it a title. So let's see. Let's go back to our proper nouns. And then I would do my essential question, basic instructions right below the title. And then up at the top, we're going to do insert a table. Now, your table size depends on how many activities you want to in the choice board to be mandatory and how many activities you want to give as options for learning. Typically, it is a 3x3 table like a tic-tac-toe. The middle square is the mandatory thing, and then you build out activities around it. But let's say that you have younger kids and you're not sure that you want to offer 8 different ways for them to learn. You can very easily do a 2x2 table. So there's one mandatory and they need to pick one other activity to demonstrate their learning or to provide support. So it's absolutely adjustable. Your choice board can be ginormous. You've got older kids, you want to do a 5x5 grid, and they need to do, well, I wouldn't do blackout with 5x5 like a bingo board, but you can tell them they need to complete a whole row or a whole column. So there's just different ways. So I'm going to show you a 3x3 though. So again, insert table 3x3, and you just start typing away. What are the expectations? What resource should they go to? So for proper nouns, I probably would like them to be able to identify a series of proper nouns. I might actually just type out which is a proper noun. We're really testing my spelling skills. Highlight the correct answers. So because this is a younger grade, I might not send them out to as many outside resources. I'm very protective of our younger students. So I would probably ask in this choice board for them to show me their knowledge inside of the Google Doc or inside something else that's in Classroom. With this class, we've done Google Drawings, so they can make little posters, or I would send them definitely to Adobe Spark because it's safe within Clovis Unified. So it's just a really easy way for them to show me that they understand what they're learning by using the features inside of a Google Doc. But here in the middle, I would do the mandatory item. And in that 4th grade example that I just showed, I actually highlighted the outside of the table, like the little individual cells. Let me show it to you again here. So I said the blue ones are mandatory, the yellow ones, you need to pick 3 of the yellow ones. So I modified my table outline instead of coloring the different background cells. So let me show you how I did that. When your mouse is inside of a cell, there's a pencil icon at the top called border color. When you click on that, you can absolutely change the outside of the cell. Now, I changed it to purple. It's very subtle and hard to see. So I take the border width, which is the button right next to that pencil, and I typically increase it to about a 3. It really makes that cell pop, and you can tell that it has a border color around it. So in this case, I would say that the purple cell is mandatory. Just note that the cell color is based on the last cell that got selected. So you notice I have purple around this one. If I come to the right and I want to make it a different color, it will get overridden. So let's do something obvious like red. Do you notice that all of a sudden my purple has turned red? Because that cell was the last one that I clicked in. So you'll either want to do this in reverse order and use your optional cell outlines, your cell borders first, and then do your mandatory one last, so it picks up all of those colors. Or I will show you how to adjust an individual line. So again, we're back on the glitter. I love glitter. So I have this red line here. I really don't want it to be red. I'm going to take my mouse and I'm going to click on that line. Do you see the blue? So just this particular border has been updated, it's been selected, and it's red. I'm going to go back and change it to purple. So you can definitely modify individual borders for each cell. Just a lot of fun. Try to make it visually interesting for students. And I try to use as many pictures as possible to help our students understand where they're supposed to be, because often pictures say so much more than reading a bunch of text, right? So I like to include, let me go back to this 4th grade example again. I like to include the logos for the resources. That's one of my go-to tricks, is that students know that this is definitely Nearpod and this is definitely Brain Pop. You know, and oh yeah, I remember the Adobe Spark logo. So it's just one of those little tricks that I like to incorporate to help students understand where they need to be. And our font, so keyboard shortcut, if you haven't seen this one before, Control A is select all. So everything on your page, instead of doing click, hold, and drag, Control A, love it. And I can easily change my font to something different and change my font size to make it a little bit easier for students to read that font. Okay. Questions about choice boards?
There are no questions in the chat right now.
Okay. I know we've got some friends that do this work as well. Is there any tips or tricks that you'd like to share?
I added a couple links to the chat for some samples.
Ooh, fantastic. Let's see if I can find my chat. I hit it. Oh, fantastic. So multimedia text set. Yes, this is another word or term for a HyperDoc. Multimedia text set, I think, is actually much more specific and much more in-depth than a typical HyperDoc example. So thank you, Karina, for sharing the text sets. Those are incredible. Cute. Hyper Slides is the younger cousin. And resources for choice boards. So in that little getting started guide from earlier, let me push this off to the side here. When you scroll down to page 6, there are 2 resources for choice board templates. One comes from Casey Bell at Shake Up Learning. And if you haven't had a chance to run across any of Casey Bell's work, she's kind of amazing, right? And then this choice board number 2 is a little, I think it's a Google slide deck. And so she has incorporated, so this is Laura Cahill, she has incorporated 19 templates for 2019. And she has these great choice boards with images in the background. So you can see how she's using its response. And I'm going to keep scrolling. Alternative PD choice board, hey! But all of it's there in a shared resource folder, and she makes it very easy for you to grab a choice board template. And so it's really nice that it's there. You might be able to find some choice boards in the HyperDocs website, but I thought, well, let's just use these blank templates, and it'll help you fill things out. That way you're not starting from scratch. So thanks to Laura for offering those for people. Let me put those links back right here. And the link to this particular document, I believe is in the chat, but I'll scroll back up to the top so you can grab that. Well, it looks like we have about 9 minutes left, and not sure if there's anything else that you would like to share or that we can cover. Inserting images, they'll resize to the cells, and you can, again, distribute these inside of Google Classroom so every student can get a copy of them.